County Fiscal Court to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Squire Taylor.
Here.
Squire Gentry.
Here.
Squire Varner.
Here.
Squire Carl.
Here.
Squire Downing. Squire Blackford.
Present.
Squire Gill.
Here.
Squire Brown.
Here.
Here to offer our invocation tonight is the pastor of Journey Church, Associate Pastor Tony Harden.
Let's bow our heads. Oh Lord, I'd like to start off tonight by thanking those public servants behind us today, the EMTs and the paramedics, the ones that dedicate their lives to keeping us safe. And God, we just are so thankful for their sacrifice and for their commitment. And God, I pray for these leaders that are before me. And I pray for their discernment. I pray that, Lord, that they would seek your guidance as they lead our community. And I pray that they would do good works tonight that would be pleasing to you. And Lord, we want to thank you for placing us in this beautiful community that we live in. And we thank you for all of the blessings that are bestowed upon us. God, tonight I pray in the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. If you're able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Before we move forward with our agenda, we have a Good of the County program. The Good of the County, the greatest county in all of the universe, Woodford County. And tonight, we have some special guests that serve Woodford County and work for us day in and day out and do the hard jobs. The hard work for Woodford County in serving and taking care of our citizens. So I'd like to call the Director of EMS, Freeman Bailey, to the podium. And I'd like to start by saying that I'm proud of this fiscal court because they've recognized that our paramedics and our EMTs in Woodford County are on the front lines of our community. They show up to the unimaginable day in and day out, whether they want to or not. When they're on call, they show up. When folks are fleeing danger, they run towards the danger, and they are there with skill, talent, and expertise. And over the past several years, we've had the benefit and good fortune of getting some of the best EMS professionals in Kentucky and in America in our EMS here in Woodford County. And so, Director Bailey, I'd like to open up the floor for you before we present these certificates of meritorious service and recognition.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Court. I come in all the time talking to you all about our staff and our paramedics and EMTs on how much they do. And we've got some people tonight that want to recognize these guys. When I spoke with Ms. Clark, I told them that I talk about these guys all the time, about how good they are and what they mean to our community and to our services. But it means a lot more coming from the public, the ones that they're actually helping. They get to see the end result of it. And I can't be more proud of my staff. There's not a better ambulance service in the country. And it's not because of me, it's because of them. They are what makes me who I am. And so for me, it's an honor and a privilege to be standing here today to join in with Ms. Clark to present these awards.
And Ms. Clark, thank you for being here. Yes, ma'am, thank you for being here.
Very thankful to be here because of them. I'm so appreciative I can't take you.
And do you mind if I share a little story about what happened?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark. On February 25th, Mrs. Betty Clark began feeling unwell, and her husband Bob called for an ambulance so that she could be taken to Central Baptist. Halfway there, Betty's oxygen dropped and her pupils began to dilate. She became unresponsive, and our EMS were on call there to assist with her with life-saving measures. And after emergency intubation, Betty was taken to the hospital where she recovered and was treated. And she is now here with us today by the grace of the good Lord and the hands and hard work of our paramedics and EMTs in Woodford County. And she shared that story with us so that we could share that story with our community and specifically put these first responders in front of our community in a way that they can be recognized. I can share that this is not the only story that I've heard in the last 6 years as judge. In fact, I hear them often. Some folks don't want to tell their story, Betty, but thank you for telling yours. Yes, ma'am.
To be here by the grace of God. And the 5 guys that rode in that ambulance with me.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. And speaking of which, I also have another story honoring Nicholas Reed. Mr. Reed demonstrated extraordinary courage and compassion by rescuing his elderly neighbor, Mr. James Witt, who had fallen into a frigid creek in his backyard while attempting to go to his house. While he was in distress, Nicholas Reed acted without hesitation, pulled him from the cold waters to safety, assessed his condition, and stabilized him, ensuring that he was going to be able to survive that fall into the water. And without Nicholas Reed's quick thinking and selfless actions, while not on the clock for Woodford County EMS, his EMS training kicked in, and he saved Mr. Witt from suffering serious harm or even loss of life due to hypothermia. So tonight, we honor Andrew Marsh, Chandler Hayhurst, Gary Reynolds, David Grubbs, and Nicholas Reed. Ladies and gentlemen, here are your heroes. And then, Miss Betty, you want to come up as well?
I want them to see me in my good clothes.
Right
Where? What would y'all like? Is it
in the middle of these ones.
Yeah, I thought there were 5.
There is. There's a 5th one. He's standing right there.
Oh, sit out here.
Different story.
We're gonna do 2 separate photos?
Two separate. All right.
David.
Chandler Hayhurst. Andrew Marsh. And that's one moving up.
When you get over there.
I'll be holding it.
Can you step in? All right, you guys look at Scott.
He's telling you to hurry up, Scott.
And now you guys look at Zoe, if you can, please. Thank you, guys.
You got a smile, baby.
Gary, thank you, honey. I got Gary on speed dial.
She does, literally.
Let's give them another round of applause. For that.
See you.
Thank you to the families for joining us. We know that they spend a lot of time away from your home and your family in service to our community, and we appreciate your all support and care for each of our first responders. Yeah, Squire
Judge, may
Brown.
I say something?
Yes, sir.
To Freeman and his team,
Yes, please.
they've got 5 or 6 more just as good.
Yeah, that's right.
The whole, I've been in and out of the hospital a bunch the last 2 years, over 100 some days. I believe they took me to the hospital 10 different times. And each time they got me there in time because I was choking at them on fluid because of a fungus. And I can't say good enough about Freeman and all of them.
Thank you, Squire Brown. Thank you, Director Bailey. Thank you, thank you. And members of the court, thank you for your indulgence. Everyone in the room, I'd like to also recognize that we have the mayor of the city of Versailles, the greatest city in the universe along with Midway. Mayor, thank you for joining us as well, for honoring our cheerleaders and our first responders. You know, I say it in jest, we're the greatest county in the universe, but the reason that we would have any claim to such an high honor is the people of Woodford County. And we have some of the best. And we show our commitment and our dedication to our people by providing them the best possible service. And what can be more important than life-saving services like our EMS, our EMTs, and paramedics. And that goes for all of our first responders, our fire, our 3 fire departments, our police, our sheriff's office, our emergency management, and all of our first response team. So thank you to everybody, and specifically thank you to those who are recognized tonight. I would return to public comment. Anybody wishing to make a public comment, seeking to address the court or the public, the floor is yours. Seeing none, we'll move on. We need to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of March 11th. Are there any additions, corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, are there any objections to approving same? Also seeing none, I will approve the minutes without objection. I'm going to bypass committee reports for a moment and move to our regular reports. We are fortunate to have with us a representative from FEMA to talk about our Disaster Assistance Center. So I'd invite you, Joe, to the podium, if you don't mind, to introduce yourself and just talk about the work that you're doing in Woodford County. And if you wouldn't mind to turn on your mic there, please. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. This was not planned. So I'm a firefighter paramedic for 30 years. I never got to go before the judge and get a certificate in Las Vegas. So
we'll give him a round of applause.
Oh, stop. That's not the point. Okay, so FEMA is in town. We've been here for a couple weeks now since the county was declared Woodford County. You may or may not be aware there's 16 counties that have been declared here in Kentucky, but Woodford is about an hour and 45 minutes from Breathitt. That's the nearest disaster recovery center. So for the last 2 weeks, we've had disaster survivor assistants on the ground. They're the ones that go door to door and try to specifically reach out to the underserved portions of the society, people who don't have computers, elderly folks, to try to get them aware that FEMA's in town, get them registered for the benefits, the federal benefits that are available. Down by the river, where a lot of the damage has taken place, there's very poor connectivity, haven't been able to get people registered, and the Commonwealth has pushed down a desire to have a disaster recovery center here locally at the senior center. And we inspected the site. It's going to be a pretty small footprint. We're going to have people there from application specialists to help people through the process, the Small Business Association, Red Cross, hazard mitigation, and there is some interest in this expedited buyout program. Hopefully there'll be a representative there from KYEM. Assuming the LUA, if it does get signed tonight, perhaps a build-out will happen on Thursday with a soft opening Friday. That's all I got, boss.
Well, thank you very, very much. And because I know you've been doing a lot of work on the disaster recovery, we want to get you the opportunity to get in and out. So we do have a land usage agreement for the approval between FEMA, DHS, and Woodford County for the senior center to be used as a disaster recovery center. Office of Assistance from the recent flooding. I need a motion to approve that land use agreement. Motion by Squire Downey, second by Squire Blackford. Are there any questions for myself or the FEMA representative?
Do we,
Yes.
is it just Friday, or do we know how long it'll be in?
No, it's not just Friday. This is not official, so I'm not even gonna
Sure.
say this.
Okay. I don't,
Typically, what happens after a build-out, we have a soft opening from 1 to 7, okay? And then after that, typically what happens in every other, almost all, just one is not doing it, is 7 to 7. We do 12 hours, 7 to 7, Monday through Saturday, and Sunday typically is from 1 to 7. I haven't heard anything different, so I anticipate that's what it'll be. It will not be for one day, it'll be for generally for 30 days. Honestly, Woodford's not a real heavy lift. If we get everything that we need done in a couple weeks, then we'll break it down. That'll be up to Kentucky EM. They're the ones who push it down, and they're the ones who will tell us when to pull it up.
Excellent. Good question. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, motion to approve the land use agreement. Please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to be excused.
Thank you.
But you can also hang out. All right. We'll get that for you. And we will move on to committee reports. So the Budget and Finance Committee of the Fiscal Court met prior to this meeting. We discussed the preliminary budgets that the Fiscal Court has received, including the CASA request, Bluegrass Community Action preliminary budget, the preliminary P&Z budget. Thank you, Kenneth Johns, for getting the GIS preliminary budget in. And we went through the timeline and process for our budget meetings. We will have our next budget meeting prior to the next fiscal court meeting, and we will meet in budget and finance each meeting until the second reading, which is scheduled on the second meeting of June before the end of the fiscal year. The committee also took up the Young and New Farmer Grant Program. And they recommended to the fiscal court for farmers number 16, 22, and 26 to be conditionally approved. I need a motion to formalize that recommendation for the court. There's a motion by Squire Brown, second by Squire Varner. This is for a conditional approval. Seeing no questions, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay, and the motion carries. The next item is we had two young farmers that were under the age of 18, and we recommended with a unanimous vote of the Budget and Finance Committee to allow for a parent and guardian to be the signatory on the grant agreement for the young and new farmer. That's a recommendation from the committee to the full fiscal court to recognize that policy change and clarification. Is there a motion to approve that recommendation? Motion by Squire Varner, second by Squire Taylor. Seeing no questions, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that motion does carry. Unfortunately, we had two applications received after our deadline. And so, unfortunately, we will have to deny those. The recommendation will be from the committee to deny those as submitted past the deadline. I need a motion to ratify that recommendation of the committee. Motion by Squire Gentry, second by Squire Taylor. All those in favor, please vote, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries. I want to thank Madam Clerk, Jordan Coyle, for all of her hard work and communication with our young and new farmers on this grant program. That is the sum of the young and new farmer actions. The next one would be, we have an indigent funding request from the coroner's office, and we need approval to apply to the court system on behalf of that individual and to cover any court cost that would be necessary to make that filing.
I make
Is there a
that motion.
by Squire Gill to adopt the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee, second by Squire Varner. All those in favor, please vote signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries. The next item, we moved on into the Ordinance Committee, and we discussed the proposed zoning text amendments, Articles 2 and Articles 4, that were sent back to the Planning Commission, and specifically reviewed a proposal on the in-family conveyances. And Squire Gill, if I may, would you be willing to discuss those or set forth those, the recommended policy that the committee recommended to the full fiscal court?
Yes. After much discussion, I move that we return to the Planning Commission a request for special provision for in-family conveyance with the following recommendations. Number one, the applicant or property owner must be a Woodford County resident. Number two, an affidavit in a format approved by Planning and Zoning must be signed by the applicant stating that at the time of the application, all parcels are being used in a manner consistent with Article 201 agricultural use of Woodford County zoning ordinance. Number three, an in-family conveyance shall not be approved on a farm parcel less than 35 acres. A farm parcel of 35 to 49 acres shall be eligible for one in-family conveyance. A farm parcel 50 acres and above shall be eligible for two in-family conveyances. Number four, an in-family conveyance lot shall not be less than 5 acres, platted with legal frontage touching a platted right-of-way. Number five, both the primary parcel and the in-family conveyance lot must be held and resided upon for at least 10 years without transfers after recordation of the deed conveying the in-family conveyance lot. Exceptions to this restriction shall be a transfer between the parties of the original in-family conveyance and a forced sale due to judicial action. Number six, an in-family conveyance lot can only be conveyed from a parent to a child, natural or legally adopted, or from grandparent to grandchild. And number seven, the above restrictions shall be stated on any in-family conveyance plat. The restrictions set forth in number five shall also be set forth in the deed. I make that motion.
There's a motion for the full fiscal court to adopt the recommendations of the ordinance committee. There's a motion on the table.
Second.
There's a second on the table. There's a motion and a second. Motion is for discussion in the fiscal court. The floor is open. Squire Gentry, you recognize?
Yeah, I would like to table this at least until the next meeting, the 8th, so I can get a little bit of feedback from constituents on what they feel about what's been brought up.
So I apologize, I didn't have a mic on. There's a motion on the table. Your recommendation would be a superseding motion, and therefore the current motion needs to be dispensed with before we move to look at another option. If we would like to table this motion, then that would have to be done in a formal motion, and I think we probably need to have some discussion before we move forward with that. So the motion on the table is to adopt the recommendation of the ordinance committee, and I'd open up the floor for additional discussion or comments. Squire Taylor.
I want to start by saying I really appreciate the committee's willingness to address my concern on the occupancy and the timing of the deed restriction. I just am really sticking on this. I'm really stuck rather on this 1 acre versus 5 acre minimum, because I think from some of the folks that we heard from, I heard a real interest in folks that would be adversely impacted in their particular cases that would maybe not be eligible if we were to stick with with 5 acres. And I think it's arbitrary a little bit for the use of the primary tract for agricultural purposes.
Thank you, Squire Taylor. Other questions or discussion regarding the motion on the table to adopt the committee's recommendation? Is there no other discussion? So, Squire Gentry, are you seeking to intervene and request that the motion that is before the court be laid upon the table, which would be an act of delaying this vote?
Yes.
Then you are in order to make a motion to lay this action on the table.
Yes.
There's a motion to lay this action on the table, which means that to not take it up for action this evening. Is there a second to that motion? There's a second by Squire Kelly Carl to lay this motion on the table. This is a non-debatable motion, which means that we will proceed to vote. Because this is a rare parliamentary procedure, I'm going to ask if there's any questions on what we're doing or how we're doing it. Then let me just clarify, Mr. County Attorney. We have a motion on the table made by Squire Gill and seconded by Squire Blackford to adopt the recommendation of the Ordinance Committee. Intervening is a motion to lay that motion on the table, which would suspend action upon the motion on the table. That is a motion and a second from Squire Gentry. Again, that is not debatable. So at this time, we would take a motion to lay the act, to whether or not to lay this motion at hand on the table. All those in favor of tabling the motion, please vote and signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying nay.
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 Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Squire Taylor,
Aye.
Squire Gentry,
Aye.
Squire Warner,
Nay.
Squire Carl,
Aye.
Squire Downey,
Aye.
Squire Blackford,
Nay.
Squire Gill,
Nay.
Squire Brown.
What'd y'all say, aye?
That's an aye.
Aye. I want to make sure I don't goof up.
The motion to lay on the table passes 5-3. In order to remove the motion from the table to be acted upon, it would take a majority vote of the court in a future action. That dispenses with the motion in relation to the committee report for the ordinance committee. That was the total sum of the ordinance committee's work. And therefore, that is the sum of our committee reports. Anybody have any additional comments about any of the work in committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports of the treasurer. I have the treasurer's report before you. Our adjusted money market balance is $16,476,857.05. The treasurer had some family responsibilities to take care of tonight, and so that is the sum of her report. But I can also report that she has been diligently working on budget, quarter end, and a few other things. We do have from the EMS, Director Bailey, a request for out-of-state travel. Is that ready for the court?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. I believe Jordan had sent it out to him.
Yes.
What we're asking to do is, we have one of our vehicles that we purchased that needs warranty work done, but they have to do it at the factory, and we got to be able to drive it from here to the factory for them. They do not have enough staff on hand right now to come pick it up. We can't give you a date yet due to the fact that we had one that was involved in an accident. We're waiting to get that truck back before we leave the county with no extra resources. So, but we know we're going to have it shipped out before the next court meeting. So we're just asking permission to do so, and the manufacturer will reimburse us for all of our cost. They're going to cover the cost of us bringing the truck down and flying our assistant director Kent Berry back, and then they will bring it back to us once all the repairs have been made.
Is there a motion to approve the out-of-state travel request for Assistant EMS Director as presented? Motion by Squire Carl, second by Squire Brown. Are there any questions or comments regarding the request? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving same, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay, and the motion carries.
Thank
you, Mr. Director. The general orders and unfinished business is before you. The claims, the bills to be paid by this county are before you. Are there any questions or comments about any of the bills to be paid? Seeing none, are there any objections to same? Seeing no objection to any of the bills to be paid, I will approve the bills to be paid without objection. We need a motion to ratify the March 18th, 2025 email approval of the claim from PMC Bank in the amount of $14,594.11. Is there a motion for same? Motion by Squire Gentry, second by Squire Carl. All those in favor of ratifying same, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries. We need to ratify the March 20th, 2025 email approval of the claim from the Visa in the amount of $257.07 for the Sheriff's Office, and the approval of the claim from Axon Enterprises, Inc. in the amount of $7,604.28 for the Sheriff's Office using asset forfeiture funds. Is there a motion to ratify the email vote and to approve said claim?
Motion.
Motion by Squire Gill, second by Squire Taylor. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion's carry. We also need to ratify that March 18th and March 2024 email vote, or email approval of the first round of disbursements for the Young and New Farmer Grant Program. Motion by Squire
Second.
Gentry, second by Squire Taylor. All those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously. We also need to approve the transfers. May I have a motion, please? Motion by Squire Brown, second by Squire Carl. All those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
They'll be in these are just receipts.
These are the received transfers. There was a unanimous vote to approve the transfers. We very likely will need to have an email approval on some of the transfers that are coming near because of quarter end. So please keep your eye out for that. We took care of the Young and New Farmer Grant Program in committee reports. And now we need to move on to the Millville Sewer Line Project, the RFP process. We approved an RFP process for engineering services for the Millville Sewer Line Project. We advertised that, and the advertisement was a week and a day from the bid opening. We were contacted by several of the firms who wished to submit a proposal under the RFP process, but they indicated that a project of this size, it would be too difficult for them with 1 week and a day to adequately provide a RFP under that proposal. So as an effort to be open and accessible and make sure that our processes are understandable and transparent, I would request that the fiscal court approve 2 additional weeks and 1 additional advertisement for the RFP process for engineering services for the Millville Sewer Line Project.
Motion.
There's a motion by Squire Gentry, second by Squire Gill. Does everybody understand what we're doing there? You know, one of the hallmarks of this court is we're not going to rush action in an effort to get things done. We're going to do it in a way that gives everybody opportunity to understand what we're doing and have a real life ability to meet the deadlines of our processes. So that's why we would ask for that additional 2-week process. There's a motion on the table. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that motion carries. We did approve the land usage agreement with FEMA. I appreciate you all doing that, and I would like to also thank Director Drew Chandler for all of his hard work in documenting disaster and recovery. And we do appreciate our partners at State, KYEM, FEMA, and the Department of Homeland Security as well. And I would also add the Small Business Administration is also helping folks that have been impacted by the floods. We have an amended resolution 2024-09A, the bus transportation for non-public school children for the year 2024-25. I need a motion to approve the amended resolution to reflect the budgeted amount of $15,000 for the transportation of non-public school children. Squire Gill, thank you.
Second.
Squire Downey, thank you. There's a motion.
Question.
Yep, Squire Taylor, you're recognized.
Is the change in amount based on the reimbursement request, or is it based on allocation?
We had originally passed it for 17,000 and it went through the budget process as 15,000.
Gotcha.
So it's an administrative reflection of the actual amount. But thanks for your question, Squire Taylor. Did you get the motions on there? All right. There was a motion by Squire Gill, second by Squire Downey. All those in favor of that motion, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries. We have traditionally approved Falling Springs Recreation Center and Community Stadium for May 24th, 2025 for project graduation for the 2025 graduating class. I was able to meet with the seniors that are putting on their project graduation, and they are behind in their fundraising. They need help. If anybody wants to help them achieve their goals, to have a great, safe night of project graduation, please consider donating and supporting the class of 2025, exceptional group of young Woodford Countyans. And I would request a motion to approve Falling Springs and Community Stadium for their use for project graduation.
Second.
Motion by Squire Brown, second by Squire Gentry. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Madam Clerk, do we have any business on the agenda that we have not attended to? Then I would request, Mr. County Attorney, that I go ahead and call on you before announcements with regards to the opiate settlement litigation.
Thank you, Judge. I laid on your table, and I know it's long, so you may not have had a chance to go through it. I tried to put this together quickly, and I had to because the judge and I were on a conference call with some of our opioid consortium attorneys right before this meeting. And the reason we were is I received an email, as I say in that first paragraph there, on March 18th, that we had to decide by today whether or not we will continue to seek leave to amend the various lawsuits they have going on to add these pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs, as defendants. Now, we've already, as you know, we've resolved a number of cases already against the manufacturers, distributors, and chain pharmacies, and those are the biggest lawsuits. And now, though, the attorneys are attempting to add these PBMs, indicate what they are. I really didn't know much about pharmacy benefit managers until I looked into it. And as evidenced by the fact that we're just now being asked about that, they're not on the same level as the manufacturers, distributors, and the pharmacies. But in any event, these actions there's an attempt to add them and go forward. They have strenuously objected to this, and it's already led to open records requests from some of their attorneys. I commend our fiscal court clerk. We've already had to respond. She did an excellent job responding to that. We can expect under the Freedom of Information Act that there will be several more such requests as long as we're pursuing this. And then, though, what's more significant, if we stay involved, this trial judge is going to choose what are called certain bellwether political subdivisions. And those subdivisions, and we could be one of those, we don't know, would have to be intimately involved in the proceeding to the point you all could be deposed. There are certain discovery requests we would have to comply with. And if we don't do it to the judge's satisfaction, the judge can back me up on this. The one lawyer got our attention when he said there can be sanctions against the county if we don't comply in the form and fashion that he expects us to. So we The one thing we can't say is we don't know how much money we're talking about in terms of what the fines may be, just as what we don't know how much money we're talking about in this litigation. We get a very small percentage, as you saw from the Kroger settlement that we were just involved in. But these consortium attorneys are recommending that the smaller political subdivisions, what they defined as under 50,000 people, withdraw our request to seek leave to add them as defendants. They only want the larger counties, and the best example I can give you is Jefferson County, to proceed with the motions because they're better structured and prepared to do what needs to be done to keep these actions going on. They have staff attorneys. They know how to deal with all these matters. So even though we would no longer be a party to the lawsuit, if they're able to pursue this to the point where they get a national settlement, which is what we've typically had in these cases, we are likely to benefit from that, even though we didn't move to amend them, because in Kentucky, the state gets 50%, and then 50% goes to be settled out with the various county and city subdivisions, okay? So we are likely, can't say with 100% certainty, but we are likely to benefit if there's a settlement. If there's not a settlement, you're probably talking about years of litigation that you would be involved in. So the hope is there can be a national settlement, and the chances for settlement are markedly improved if all of the plaintiffs can adequately respond, which is why they are asking us to please consider withdrawing our motion for leave to add these PBM as defendants. Now, if you do vote to authorize me to withdraw our consent, I will do so right after I go up to the office after this meeting. Do need to let you know, if we do withdraw and the lawsuits don't result in a national settlement, we could be forced to have to refile our lawsuits if we choose to go after these PBMs. There could potentially be a statute of limitations issue with that. However, if the trial judge determines there are too many counties on boards and kicks this action, there'll be that same issue anyway. So it's a tough call. I want to speak for myself, and I'll let the judge speak for himself. I think it's in our best interest to move to withdraw for leave to add them and take our chances with a national settlement. But unfortunately, again, they gave us this one opportunity to respond to them. We got the first email March 18th, got a reminder yesterday. We told them we weren't even meeting in between the 18th and today. We are meeting today. So they suggested we bring it to your attention and that I notify them by email at the conclusion of this meeting. And I know it's a little unfair, if not a lot unfair, to ask you to make a decision like this with that limited information. And it's kind of where you have to trust your judge and your county attorney on the advice we're giving you. So it would be my advice, based on those discussions and emails I've received, that I be authorized to withdraw Woodford County from these motions for leave to add the PBM as defendants. Judge, being the judge and being a lawyer himself, can chime in on that, but that's where we are.
So we've weighed the risks and benefits associated with both decisions. The decision to remain in could mean that we would hamper the ongoing litigation, given our community size, given our government size. If we are chosen as a bellwether and we have to respond in court, I mean, it could be as much as us having to hire additional administrative staff and maybe even counsel to do that. And if we were unable to do that to the judge's sufficiency, we could be sanctioned. And I don't think that's something that, as an attorney, I would advise any client to go into if there was still a possibility that we would ultimately be included in the settlement, which is very likely that we would if there is a national settlement. The risk, however, is they move forward and we're not a named party, and there's some sort of agreement that they come to that allows them to settle with only the parties that are named. That isn't how it usually happens, but it is a risk associated with this. The bigger risk is that we stay in, and a bunch of counties our size stay in, and as the county attorney explained, they cannot proceed with the lawsuit. It is either dismissed or it's curtailed in some sort of fashion, and therefore nobody gets to sue these pharmacy benefit managers. I would say that to use an analogy, the big fish have already been fried in these lawsuits. And y'all know how I feel, that regardless of all the money that has come in through these settlements, it's not enough to really take care of the damage that these opiates and drugs have done to our community. So every bit counts. But we think that in the end, the ultimate for the greater good for these pharmacy benefit managers to be held accountable, it's probably better for us to consent to no longer be a named plaintiff in the suit. So.
And if they feel that way, Judge, I would need that motion.
So I entertain a motion to authorize the county attorney on behalf of the court to sign off on the requisite withdrawal form for the motion for leave to add PBM defendants as submitted by our consortium attorneys. Motion by Squire Gentry, second by Squire Brown. I'd open the floor for any questions or comments. Yes.
I appreciate the detailed explanation, because if they are found to be in the wrong, I would want them to be held accountable for their, and those that were impacted in our community have that recourse. So I really appreciate that understanding, because first glance, you're letting folks off potentially, and so I appreciate that explanation.
And Judge, and Squire, if I may, whether we're in it or not, if they're held accountable, that's what we want. Yeah. Obviously, each community welcomes and can utilize the funds, but bottom line is to be held accountable, and we want to give them the best opportunity to make that happen.
Yeah.
Yes, Judge, whether we in or out, I'm just hoping and praying that we'll be able to help those in the community who need help with the little funds that we do have.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that process is in motion. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, on the motion on the table, please vote and signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. County Attorney.
Now, thank you, Judge, for your time and input this afternoon, and thank the court. I'll take care of that as soon as we can end this meeting.
And we'll submit this discussion to the bar for continuing legal education. Credits for all the attorneys in the room.
Likewise, on the Robert's Rules of Order, then we...
Announcements, magistrates. Squire Downey, since you have your light on.
Magistrates and Commissioners Conference this week in Lexington, and otherwise that's it, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Squire Blackford.
Yes, Judge. At the library on March the 27th at 6 p.m., they'll be having a march continue the USCTS and Civil War of 1865. We'll be having a program at the library. Join Ranger Steve Vaughn as he shares the stories of U.S. colored troops and their families in Kentucky during the final months of the Civil War, including over 500 men from Woodford County who gained their freedom by joining the Union Army at Camp Nelson. Also, I want to give some condolences to Sister Gladys Owens, who passed this week. She was worked Joe Gormley, I think, secretary here on the Fiscal Court for years. She also was a member of the Woodford County Midway Human Rights Commission. She was just a fine lady in the community here, very involved with the Women's Club, very church woman, very active in our church and community here. So we're praying for her family and all. So,
thank you, Squire Blackford. In honor of Miss Gladys Owens, we will take a moment of silence. Amen. Our prayers and condolences go out to the Owens family. Thank you, Squire Blackford. Squire Gill.
Yeah, the main primary fundraiser for the Huntertown Community Interpretive Park is the Juneteenth dinner and music and silent auction, and it's on June 19th this year, and we are looking for sponsors. So if you know of any businesses or individuals that would like to contribute, we welcome that. Thank you.
Thank you. Squire Brown.
Nothing, Judge, thank you.
Squire Taylor.
Nothing, Judge.
Squire Gentry.
Nothing, thank you.
Squire Varner. Squire Carl.
Yes, speaking about project graduation, there's a pickleball tournament for a fundraiser April 19th out at Falling Springs, starts at 9 a.m. I have played pickleball, not a great player. Larry is the pickleball player, and there's 2 divisions in this. There would be students and adults, and actually $20 entry fee per player, per player. And there's $200 earnings for each division winner. So, hey, great way. Rock on. There you go, Larry.
You sign up quickly.
I'll partner with you, Coach. Thank you, Squire Carl. Mr. Woodford's son? Mr. Woodford's son?
Be your partner, I might.
Just real quick, kind of building on what Squire Blackford said, as many of you all who still read the Woodford Sun and read and I haven't upset everybody, there used to be a thing called clippings from the Clipper. We didn't have this year's in our archives of 1905, so instead, I've been going out and hanging out in the Kentucky room with Mrs. Blackford, and we've been pulling the corresponding week from the Woodford Pennant, which was published for a very short period of time between 1859 and April 1861. And this is a particularly fascinating period because it's the time between Lincoln's election in November of 1860 and then shortly after his inauguration and a couple of months before the first battle of the Civil War. And I would just say it's fascinating reading. Publishing word for word what the articles are. It's a self-professed Democrat newspaper, which at that time was pro-South, pro-slavery, but it has lots of interesting things about Kentucky, the efforts of then Vice President Breckinridge, who was Kentuckian, to try to reach some kind of accord before the war. But if there's down in anyone's mind that slavery was not the cause of the Civil War, I would suggest reading what we've been publishing in the clippings from the Woodford Pennant. It has been an eye-opener almost every week. Well, there has been every week that we've published. There have been rewards for runaway slaves. We published a story where a slave owner in Midway loaned or rented an 8-year-old boy to somebody down in Elm Bend, and it was reported that the fellow that rented the kid actually shot and killed him. Nothing happened, obviously, and they didn't even identify the boy's name. What's been particularly fun for me, despite just mentioning a tragedy, is I've received probably now close to 50 letters and comments and emails just thanking us for that. And those are the kind of things that we like to do with the Woodford Sun. So, if you all have ideas, things you think would be worth doing, let me know, and we'll certainly do that. I hope that wasn't controversial, but I just thought it was very interesting. You all might want to know about it.
Thank you.